The Anthropocene Reviewed, Essays on a Human-Centered Planet by John Green. Picture this. You're rummaging through a drawer, hunting for something as mundane as chapstick. Then, without warning, reality dissolves. The floor beneath you transforms into a violent, churning ocean. Your eyes shake in their sockets, and suddenly, the entire world becomes a dizzying, terrifying blur. This nightmare became John Green's reality. Fresh off a grueling book tour for one of his bestsellers, he found himself rushed to the emergency room. For weeks on end, the world just wouldn't stop spinning. Doctors eventually diagnosed him with labyrinthitis, a brutal inner ear infection. Confined to his bed, unable to read, watch television, or even play with his kids, he had nothing but time to think. During those endless, disorienting days, something clicked. For years, he'd been crafting novels like The Fault in Our Stars and Turtles all the way down, pouring his anxieties and questions into fictional characters. He'd been, as he puts it, writing in code. But he was done with that. He wanted to speak plainly, directly. He wanted to explore how his small, ordinary life intersects with the massive, overwhelming forces shaping our modern existence. That's how the Anthropocene Reviewed was born. But this isn't a novel. It's a collection of essays that review, well, everything. Canada geese, the QWERTY keyboard, Diet Dr. Pepper, sunsets, the world's largest ball of paint. Using a simple 5-star rating system, he reviews pieces of our human-centered planet. This era scientists call the Anthropocene, where humanity has fundamentally reshaped Earth and its ecosystems. Along the way, he discovers something profound about how to actually live. By the end of this journey, you won't just know the stories behind these quirky reviews. You'll have a whole new lens for seeing the world. You'll understand the central paradox of 21st century existence. We're powerful enough to reshape the entire planet, yet somehow not nearly powerful enough to protect the people we love from pain and suffering. And you'll walk away with a tool for finding hope, not by pretending darkness doesn't exist, but by paying closer attention and learning to fall in love with a beautifully imperfect world. This isn't just a book summary. This is an exploration of what it means to be alive right here, right now. So where do we start? With a single insight that transformed everything. John Green's wife, Sarah, gave him advice that cracked the project wide open. He'd been writing these reviews as a detached critic, keeping a safe distance. But Sarah pointed out something crucial. In the Anthropocene, in this world we've all helped shape, there are no neutral observers. There are only participants. When we write reviews, she told him, we're really writing memoir. We're telling the story of our experience. With that realization, everything changed. He wasn't just reviewing Diet Dr. Pepper anymore. He was writing about his deeply personal, slightly irrational love for Diet Dr. Pepper. He stopped pretending to be an observer and embraced being a participant with his own story to tell. This shift unlocked the book's central question. What does it actually mean to be human right now? And Green explores this through one theme that flows through every essay like a river: the great paradox of human power. We first encounter this in his review of humanity's temporal range. I know it sounds academic, but stay with me. Temporal range just means how long a species has existed. Modern humans? We've been around for roughly 250,000 years. Sounds impressive until you learn that alpacas have existed for 10 million years, and the tuatara, a reptile from New Zealand, has been here for 240 million years. They've outlasted us by a factor of 1,000. Yet in our brief time here, we've become the single most powerful force on the planet. As Green's brother Hank once explained, If you're a 21st century river, desert, or polar bear, your biggest problem is people. We've radically reshaped Earth's climate and biodiversity. We've even escaped our planet's atmosphere. But here's the flip side of that paradox. We're not powerful enough to save the people we love from suffering. We can't stop the universe from being the universe. We can't stop illness from striking those closest to us. This tension of being simultaneously too powerful and not nearly powerful enough defines our age. Green sees this everywhere, even in something as ordinary as air conditioning. In one essay, he reviews the invention of AC. Willis Carrier created it in 1902, not for human comfort, but to solve a printing problem where humidity kept warping magazine pages. Today, air conditioning has fundamentally reshaped human civilization. It enabled population explosions in scorching places like Phoenix, Arizona, a city that somehow now has a professional ice hockey team. It allows safe storage of heat-sensitive medicines like insulin and antibiotics. But this comfort comes with a cost. Cooling our indoor spaces heats the outdoors. Air conditioning devours about 10% of global electricity, mostly from fossil fuels, which warms the planet, which makes us need more air conditioning. A vicious cycle. We're powerful enough to control our home's temperature, but apparently not powerful enough to stop warming the planet. That's the Anthropocene in a nutshell. We solve the immediate personal problem while struggling with the large systemic one. This paradox extends beyond technology to how we perceive the world itself. Take velociraptors, for instance. When you hear velociraptor, what image pops into your head? If you're like most people, you picture the Jurassic Park creature, a 6-foot-tall, scaly, terrifyingly intelligent predator from Montana. Green's 10-year-old brother uttered his first curse word in a theater, watching those velociraptors learn to open a door. He just muttered, "Oh shit." But nearly everything we think we know about velociraptors from that movie is wrong. The real Velociraptor mongoliensis lived in what's now Mongolia, not Montana. They weren't 6 feet tall. They were about turkey-sized. And they weren't scaly. They were covered in feathers. Paleontologists believe if they were alive today, we'd probably just think they were really weird-looking birds. They were likely scavengers, not apex predators. The creature in Jurassic Park was actually based on a different dinosaur, the Deinonychus. Writer Michael Crichton simply thought Velociraptor was, in his words, more dramatic. So our mental image of this creature reveals far more about us, our love for drama, our need for terrifying villains, than about the animal itself. We're powerful enough to resurrect a creature in our collective imagination and make it globally famous, but we do so by completely erasing what it actually was. Knowing the facts doesn't stop Green from picturing the movie monster. His brain, like ours, has been shaped by the story, not reality. This is the power we wield in the Anthropocene, the power to shape narratives, to decide what gets remembered and how. But this also reveals a path forward. If our power lies in the stories we tell, and what we choose to notice, then maybe the key to navigating our strange world is getting better at paying attention. This brings us to the heart of the book, reviews of the mundane, the artificial, and the overlooked. One of Green's mentors, the late writer Amy Krauss Rosenthal, once wrote, "For anyone trying to discern what to do with their life, pay attention to what you pay attention to. That's pretty much all the info you need." For Green, his attention had become scattered, his world chaotic and overwhelming. The reviews became a practice in paying attention, and he starts with something many might consider trivial: Diet Dr. Pepper. What makes Dr. Pepper fascinating, he notes, is that it has no natural equivalent. It doesn't taste like orange, root beer, or cola. It was designed by a pharmacist in 1885 who wanted to create a drink that tasted like his soda fountain smelled, a swirl of artificial flavors. It's unnatural by design. And Green loves it for exactly that. He writes, "Each time I drink Diet Dr. Pepper, I am newly astonished. Look at what humans can do. They can make ice-cold, sugary sweet, zero-calorie soda that tastes like everything, and also like nothing." For him, Diet Dr. Pepper isn't just a drink. It's a faint shadow of a proper vice. He used to smoke compulsively, and after quitting, he felt he needed some small, self-destructive habit to satisfy that part of his subconscious. Drinking Diet Dr. Pepper is like offering a sacrifice. It's the soda that tastes more like the Anthropocene than any other. He's paying attention to what he pays attention to, and in doing so, he finds a complex story about human ingenuity, addiction, and the strange beauty of the artificial. He gives Diet Dr. Pepper 4 stars. He brings this same focused attention to scratch and sniff stickers. He recalls having a sticker book as a child, and how those powerful artificial scents of pizza or banana became a refuge. In middle school, while being bullied, he'd retreat to his room, scratch the stickers, and inhale. The scratch, sniff banana didn't smell like a real banana. It smelled like the platonic ideal of a banana. It was comfort in concentrated form. Then he reveals something startling. He still has that sticker album. And those stickers, after more than 30 years, still erupt with scent when scratched. They're made through microencapsulation, where tiny droplets of scented oil are sealed in microscopic capsules that only break when you scratch them. This leads to a profound realization. It's possible that a smell might disappear from the real world before the microencapsulated version does. He writes, "The last time anyone smells a banana, it might be via a scratch, sniff sticker. Suddenly, a silly childhood toy becomes a meditation on memory, time, and the strange relationship between natural and artificial." He gives scratch, sniff stickers 3.5 stars. This way of seeing continues with his review of the QWERTY keyboard. We all use it daily, but have you ever wondered why the letters are arranged this way? It's not alphabetical. The most common letters, E and T, aren't even on the home row where your fingers rest. The story, as Green tells it, perfectly exemplifies how innovation actually happens. It's not a single genius like Thomas Edison having a light bulb moment. The QWERTY keyboard resulted from a long, messy, collaborative process involving a Wisconsin politician, telegraph operators, stenographers, and even a passionate vegetarian who survived on raw apples. It was designed to solve mechanical problems with early typewriters, like keys jamming. While other supposedly more efficient keyboard layouts have been invented since, like the Dvorak keyboard, none have replaced QWERTY. Why? Because QWERTY, partly by accident, is just good enough. It became the standard. For Green, the QWERTY keyboard is deeply personal. As a kid, he had terrible handwriting but was a fantastic typist. Typing was one of the first things he was ever good at. On the early internet, typing let him connect with people without revealing how scared or awkward he felt in real life. He writes, "When I could no longer bear to be myself, I was able to become for a while a series of keys struck in quick succession. What started as a keyboard review becomes a powerful story about identity, insecurity, and the tools we use to find our voice." He gives the QWERTY keyboard 4 stars. Through these reviews, a pattern emerges. By paying close attention to the ordinary, John Green finds the extraordinary. He discovers history, community, and personal meaning woven into everyday life. But life isn't all quiet reflection on keyboards and soda. It's also about shared joy, shared struggle, and the communities that hold us together. This is another major theme, the power of us. This idea shines beautifully in his review of the song, You'll Never Walk Alone. Most people know this song as the anthem of Liverpool Football Club. Green, a lifelong fan, explains that it originally came from the 1945 Rodgers and Hammerstein musical Carousel. It's sung twice in the show, once to comfort a grieving widow, and later at a graduation ceremony. The lyrics are simple, almost cliché. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. But Green argues the song works. It works because it speaks to two fundamental truths about being a person. One, we must go on, and two, none of us ever walks alone. In the 1960s, a Liverpool band called Jerry and the Pacemakers covered the song, and fans of Liverpool FC almost immediately adopted it. To this day, before every home game, tens of thousands of people sing it together. Green reflects that he sung this song with other fans many times, sometimes in exultation, often in lamentation. It works as a funeral song, a graduation song, and a We Just Won the Championship song. It's about sticking together, whether you're in the middle of a storm or walking toward a golden sky. It asserts unity in sorrow and triumph. The community singing it makes the song great. In March 2020, at the pandemic's beginning, a video went viral of British paramedics singing You'll Never Walk Alone through a glass wall to their colleagues working in intensive care. They were singing to give them courage. What a word that is, Green writes, on courage. Though our dreams be tossed and blown, still we sing ourselves and one another into courage. He gives You'll Never Walk Alone 4.5 stars. This theme of shared experience creating unexpected moments of courage and joy brings us to one of the book's most thrilling stories. His review of Jerzy Dudek's performance on May 25, 2005. This is about a soccer game, but it's really about hope, absurdity, and the magic of listening to your friends. Jerzy Dudek was a Polish goalkeeper who grew up in a tiny coal mining town. After his mother visited the mine once, she made him and his brother promise never to go down there. For a kid in that town, professional soccer seemed impossible. He wasn't even particularly good at first. His first coach told him, "You dive like a sack of potatoes." But he kept working, he improved. And through an unlikely series of events, he ended up as starting goalkeeper for one of the world's biggest clubs, Liverpool. On May 25, 2005, Liverpool played in the Champions League final, the biggest game in European club soccer, against the Italian giants AC Milan. And it was a disaster. At halftime, Liverpool was losing 3-0. The dream was over. In the locker room, the players were shattered. One later said, "My dreams had turned to dust." The 40,000 Liverpool fans in the stadium began singing, "You'll Never Walk Alone," but it was, as one player recalled, in sympathy more than belief. Then the miracle happened. In a stunning 6-minute span in the second half, Liverpool scored 3 goals. The game was tied, 3-3. It went into extra time, and with moments left, Jerzy Dudek made an impossible double save, one of the greatest saves in soccer history. The game would be decided by penalty shootout. Now imagine you're Jerzy Dudek. You've practiced for this moment your entire life. You have a routine. You stand perfectly still in the middle of the goal until the last possible second, then you dive. It's what you've always done. But just before the shootout begins, his teammate, defender Jamie Carragher, runs up jumps on his back and starts screaming in his ear, "Jersey, Jersey!" Remember Bruce Grobbelaar? Bruce Grobbelaar was the Liverpool goalkeeper who, back in the 1984 final, did this bizarre, wobbly-legged dance on the goal line to distract opposing penalty takers. It was absurd, it was goofy, and it worked. So in the most important moment of his professional life, Jerzy Dudek decided to forget everything he'd ever practiced. He decided to listen to his friend. He started dancing on the goal line. His legs wobbled like spaghetti. His wife, watching at home, said, "I didn't recognize my husband. I couldn't believe he danced so crazily." The Milan players were completely thrown off. One missed the goal entirely. Dudek saved two others. And Liverpool completed what became known as the Miracle of Istanbul. For Green, this story is a powerful reminder. He writes, "You can't see the future coming. Not the terrors, for sure. But you also can't see the wonders that are coming, the moments of light-soaked joy that await each of us. Sometimes, when things seem hopeless, like being down 3-0 at halftime, a miracle lurks just around the corner. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is listen to a crazy friend who tells you to dance." He gives Jerzy Dudek's performance 5 stars. But finding meaning and hope isn't always about grand, public miracles. More often, it's about quiet, personal struggles, and the people who help us through them. This brings us to the book's most vulnerable and poignant part, where Green turns his reviewer's eye inward to his own experiences with loss, grief, and mental illness. In his review of the movie Harvey, he tells a story from 2001, when he suffered what he calls a nervous breakdown. He'd just gone through a painful breakup and was alone in the apartment they'd once shared. He fell into deep depression, a state he describes with wrenching clarity. He quotes writer William Styron, "It is hopelessness even more than pain that crushes the soul." He couldn't eat. He was surviving on 2-liter bottles of Sprite. One evening, unable to get off the kitchen floor, he called his parents. Within 12 hours they were there, having flown 1,500 miles to be with him. They packed up his apartment and made a plan for him to come home to Florida to get help. The last thing he had to do was quit his job at a magazine called Booklist. He tearfully told his publisher, a man named Bill Ott, that he had to leave. Bill listened, and after a long pause said, "Why don't you just go home for a few weeks and see how you feel?" He told John they'd manage without him. As John was leaving, he found a note from Bill on his desk. It read, in part, "Hope all goes well, and you're back here in 2 weeks with an appetite that would put a longshoreman to shame. Now more than ever, watch Harvey." For years, Bill had been telling him to watch the 1950 film Harvey, but John had always refused, dismissing black and white movies. But now, back home, feeling like a failure, he finally watched it with his parents. The movie stars Jimmy Stewart as Elwood P. Dowd, a kind gentleman whose best friend is a 6-foot-tall invisible white rabbit named Harvey. Elwood's family wants to have him committed to a sanitarium. He is, by any clinical definition, mentally ill. But he's also profoundly heroic in his own way. He's extraordinarily kind. In one of the movie's most famous lines, Elwood says, "Years ago my mother used to say to me, 'In this world you must be oh so smart, or oh so pleasant.' Well, for years I was smart. I recommend pleasant." For John Green, hearing those words in that moment was revelatory. He writes, "I don't believe in epiphanies, but I'll tell you this, I have never felt quite as hopeless since watching Harvey as I did just before I watched it." The character of Elwood showed him that you could be struggling, you could be crazy, and still be human, still be valuable, and still be loved. It offered him a kind of hope that wasn't cheap or sentimental. He gives Harvey 5 stars. This search for hope in the face of despair is a recurring journey for Green. In another essay, he reviews sycamore trees and describes a mental game his brain sometimes plays called "What's Even the Point?" When this game begins, a blizzard of blinding, frozen white light descends upon him. The universe doesn't care that he's here. Making art is just decorating. Falling in love is just a desperate attempt to stave off loneliness. All of it is pointless. Despair, he notes, is unproductive. All it can make is more of itself. When he's in that state, he can't find a way out. But then one day, the blizzard subsides. He's walking in a park with his children, and his son points to 2 squirrels racing up an immense American sycamore tree, with its white, peeling bark and leaves bigger than dinner plates. And he simply thinks, "God, that's a beautiful tree." He looks up at it, feeling the solace of its shade, and realizes that's the point. The beauty of the tree, the relief of its shade, the feel of his son's hand in his, that is the point. The game ends, not with a grand philosophical argument, but with a simple moment of attention and gratitude. He gives sycamore trees 5 stars. This idea of finding meaning not in some grand ultimate purpose, but in the act of living and participating, leads us to one of the book's most beautiful and emblematic essays, his review of The World's Largest Ball of Paint. Located in Alexandria, Indiana, the Ball of Paint was started in 1977 by a man named Mike Carmichael and his 3-year-old son. They painted a baseball, and then they just kept painting it. Over 40 years later, the ball has more than 26,000 layers of paint and weighs 2.5 tons. Every year, thousands of strangers visit and add their own layer. For Green, this ball of paint becomes a powerful metaphor for art and for life itself. We're often taught to think of history and art as the story of individual geniuses, Michelangelo, Newton, Shakespeare. But Green argues this is misguided. Even the greatest genius accomplishes very little alone. Progress and creation are almost always collaborative. Life, he suggests, is like the world's largest ball of paint. He writes, "You carefully choose your colors, and then you add your layer as best you can. In time, it gets painted over, and eventually, maybe nobody knows about it except for you. But that doesn't mean your layer of paint is irrelevant or a failure. You have permanently, if slightly, changed the larger sphere." This, for him, is what art is. This is what life is. It's not about forging some immortal masterpiece. It's about picking a color, adding your layer, and participating in the strange, beautiful collective project of being human. Knowing your layer will soon be painted over, and painting anyway. He gives The World's Largest Ball of Paint 4 stars. Perhaps the most powerful and haunting essay in the collection is the final one, a review of a photograph titled 3 Farmers on Their Way to a Dance. The photograph was taken in 1914 by German photographer August Sander. It shows 3 young men in their best suits, holding canes, with hats cocked. They're standing on a muddy country path, looking over their shoulders at the camera, as if they've only paused for a moment on their way to something wonderful. Their feet are in the mud, but their heads are in the sky. For years, John Green was obsessed with this photograph. For him, it was a picture about knowing and not knowing. You know you're on your way to a dance, but you don't know you're on your way to a war. The photograph was taken shortly before the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the event that would trigger World War I. The same industrialization that made their cheap suits possible would soon mass-produce weapons of unimaginable destruction. The photograph reminds us that we too stand on the edge of a future we cannot see. History is, as one writer put it, the relentless unforeseen. But then Green digs deeper. He learns the real story behind the photograph. The three young men were not, in fact, farmers. Two were iron ore miners, and one was an office worker at the mine. The iron from that mine would be used to build weapons for the coming war. He learns their names, Otto Krieger, August Klein, and Ewald Klein, and he learns what happened to them. Soon after the photograph was taken, all three were called to serve in the German army. August Klein, the handsome, sleepy-eyed young man in the middle, was killed in action in March 1915, less than a year after the picture was taken. He was 22 years old. The other two, Otto and Ewald, were both wounded but survived the war. Suddenly, the photograph is no longer just a symbol. It's a historical document, a portrait of three real lives, cut short or forever changed by forces beyond their control. It testifies to the fact that history isn't an abstract force. It's something that happens to individual people. It happens to us. The picture is static, but it keeps changing as we, the viewers, change. As Green writes, we do not see things as they are, we see them as we are. Looking at that picture from our present, we can't help but see the tragedy awaiting them. But in their faces, we also see the hope, the confidence, the sheer joy of being young and on your way to a dance with your best friends. The photograph holds both things at once, the beautiful fleeting present and the terrible unforeseen future. It's a perfect encapsulation of the Anthropocene itself, a world full of promise and peril, where our feet are in the mud but our heads are in the sky. He gives three farmers on their way to a dance 4.5 stars. So how do we live in such a world? A world of overwhelming complexity, breathtaking beauty, and profound pain? In the end, John Green doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, he offers a practice. The practice of attention. The practice of bearing witness. The practice of finding the wonder all around us, if only we take the time to look. In his review of sunsets, after wrestling with how cliché and sentimental they are, he finally surrenders to their beauty. He writes, "This whole thing you've been doing where nothing gets 5 stars because nothing is perfect, that's bullshit. So much is perfect. Starting with this." He gives sunsets 5 stars. To fall in love with the world, he concludes, isn't to ignore or overlook suffering. It is to look up at the night sky and feel your mind swim before the beauty and distance of the stars. It is to hold your children while they cry. We all know how loving ends. But he wants to fall in love with the world anyway, to let it crack him open, to feel what there is to feel while he is here. This book is his attempt to do just that. It's an invitation for us to do the same. So what do we take away from this journey through the Anthropocene Reviewed? I think the most powerful lesson is hidden in the book's very structure. The 5-star scale seems like a gimmick at first, a silly way to judge the world. We live in an age of ratings, where everything from a public restroom to the medication we take gets rated on a 5-star scale. It feels like a shallow, data-driven way of seeing the world. But in John Green's hands, it becomes something more. It becomes an act of attention. To review something, you have to truly look at it. You have to consider its history, its context, its impact on you and the world. The rating itself is almost irrelevant. What matters is the act of looking closely, of paying attention. And that, I believe, is the central challenge he's offering us. In a world constantly screaming for our attention, a world of endless distraction and overwhelming information, the most radical thing we can do is choose what we pay attention to, and do so with care and curiosity. This book teaches us that there are no boring subjects, only inattentive minds. A can of soda, a movie from the 1950s, a common weed in your lawn, all contain deep, complex, and fascinating stories if we're willing to look for them. They connect us to history, to our communities, and to ourselves, and this practice of attention is ultimately an act of hope. It's easy to despair when you look at the big picture: climate change, injustice, the sheer scale of human suffering. It's easy to feel like nothing matters, to play that game of what's even the point. But Green shows us a way out of that despair, not by ignoring the problems, but by focusing on the small, tangible, and beautiful things that make life worth living. A sycamore tree, a well-crafted song, a hot dog eaten with friends on a cold day. Hope in this book isn't a feeling, it's a practice. It's the choice to add your layer to the ball of paint, even though you know it will be painted over. It's the choice to sing with a crowd of strangers, believing that even in sorrow, you're not alone. It's the choice to be pleasant instead of smart. So how can you apply these lessons to your own life, starting today? Here are a few simple ideas. First, for the next week, try paying attention to what you pay attention to. Pick one small, ordinary thing in your life that you interact with every day. Maybe it's your favorite pair of sneakers, the brand of coffee you drink, or the route you take to school. Just get curious about it. Where did it come from? Who made it? What's its story? You might be surprised by what you find. Second, add your layer of paint. Do one small, creative thing this week, not for an audience or for a grade, but just for yourself. Write a poem you'll never show anyone. Doodle in the margins of your notebook. Help a friend with a project. Contribute something to the world, however small, knowing that your contribution matters simply because you made it. You are changing the sphere. And finally, find a third thing. The book talks about how relationships are strengthened when two people can look together at a third thing: a piece of art, a book, a sunset. Find a third thing to share with someone you care about. Watch a movie together, and really talk about it. Read the same book. Go for a walk, and pay attention to the world around you, together. Practice the art of double attention. That was a summary of the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. We've explored the landscapes of this incredible book today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a photograph of a sunset. It can show you the colors and the shape, but it can't make you feel the warmth of the last light on your skin. The real magic of this book is in the way John Green writes, in the quiet, personal moments where his words connect with your own experience. This summary is a map, but the treasure is in reading the book itself. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or touched your heart, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the beautiful, terrifying, and wondrous world we all share. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know that these deep dives matter, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep paying attention together.